previous procedure. And in terms of seconding the meeting notes from last background, I'm not going to say anything anyway. Someone else is saying. I wasn't even here.
And we're turning it over to our police chief, Pat Malloy.
Thank you, Commissioner Schreiber, and other members of the board, members of the audience, Manager Manfredi. I want to thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to introduce our newest officer tonight and also to recognize a great job. But at first, I'd like to, Officer Ken Witter, I'd ask Officer Ken Witter to join me, and please just stand. Make sure me fix that hat for you. There you go. All right, you're good. All right. I don't know, not sure that I can reach it, but okay, if I could. But I just want to introduce Officer Witter before Judge Kessler joins us for the swearing in. So Ken graduated from Norristown Area High School. He was born and raised in the Norristown area of Pennsylvania. He attended Indiana University of Pennsylvania, where he balanced football. He played football there, wide receiver, his academics, and he earned a bachelor's degree in science and communications media. After graduating from college, Ken played professional arena football for the Colorado Ice for 3 years. So nobody wants to race this guy, I'll tell you that. He then served as a Montgomery County Police dispatcher before beginning his career with the Abington Township Police Department in late 2017, where he attended Temple University Police Academy. While at the academy, they noticed his leadership skills and they appointed him to a sergeant and one of the class leaders of the police academy. After graduation, Ken was assigned to our FTO program. As you know, our FTO program is very strenuous. Not everybody makes it. So we decided to introduce Ken after he completed the FTO program, and tonight marks that anniversary. Ken is married to his high school sweetheart, who's here tonight, Amanda. I'm going to ask Amanda to come up here in a moment to help with the swearing in and holding the Bible. Ken and Amanda have 3 beautiful children, Caden, Colton, and Ariella. And on his off time, Ken enjoys weightlifting, listening to music, spending time with his family, and attending sporting events. So if I could have your wife, beautiful bride, to come up, and also Judge Kessler, please join us. And thank you, Judge, again for coming out to assist us.
Yes. All right. Officer, please place your hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand, and please repeat after me. And after I say I, please state your name. I do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and the Township of Abington, and that I will faithfully discharge with fidelity the duties of my office as a police officer for Abington Township, and will obey the rules and regulations, policies and procedures governing all sworn members of the Abington Township Police Department. Congratulations, officer.
Thank everyone for being here tonight. I especially want to thank the township manager, also the board of commissioners. I also want to thank my family, my wife Amanda, my son Caden, son Colton, my daughter Ariella, my mother, father, grandmother, best friends, their children here, which are like my own, my nieces and my nephew. Just want to thank everybody again for this opportunity, and thank you for joining us tonight.
If we could have security remove the gentleman with the Cowboys hat, please. Okay. take care of him after the meeting. All right. All right, Madam Chair, now I'd like to introduce Officer, we're going to now have Officer Ryan Brown and Ken Witter come up again because we want to present them with a Class 3 commendation. So if you guys could please join me. And if Commissioner Schreiber, if you could also join me. Before we present this plaque to these officers, I just want to give a little background on what occurred this evening. Back on July 19th of 2018, Officer Witter and Officer Brown were dispatched to 2329 Old Welsh Road to check on the well-being of a Vietnam veteran who had been struggling with mental issues and post-traumatic stress disorder. So when Officers Witter and Brown arrived, they made contact with the resident and were invited inside. While speaking with him, he indicated that he was experiencing some disturbing flashbacks, and he indicated that these flashbacks were bringing him back to his time in the war, and he requested information on how he could obtain transportation to Veterans Hospital. During this conversation, the resident abruptly ran toward the television, and at the back of the shelf, he grabbed a handgun, which he then pointed at both of these officers. Both of you reacted without hesitation and were able to wrestle him to the ground and disarm him. It was not until this time that you both realized that the firearm was, in fact, a replica, not a real firearm. The resident then made a statement after being detained and made it clear to you that he was attempting suicide by cop. This here is an example where officers have to make a split-second decision. This doesn't happen by accident. When we put people through the field training program during our selection process, the background that they have, Officer Ryan Brown served in the Marine Corps, and as you know, Officer Witter served as a communications major, also served as an emergency communications dispatch worker before coming to our police department. Their ability to de-escalate and make split-second decisions to save lives was really incredible here, the restraint that they used. And we know not all these things end like this, and officers are really put in difficult positions, but here is one where it was really an incredible job. They were able to get that gentleman to the Veterans Hospital, to the mental health professionals who were able to intervene and help them. But I can't tell you, officers, how proud I am of the work you do. And these jobs that we see every day don't happen by accident. They happen because we really do have great officers working here. So thank you so much, and I want to commend you for your a job well done.
It was a very frightening experience. You handled really well, and I'm proud of both of you, and you should be very proud of yourselves. So we have commendations for performances. They say the same thing, presented to, this one says, Officer Kenneth Witter, for your compassionate and heroic actions that saved a man's life. Good evening, everyone. We'd like to call the Public Safety Committee to order, and can I have a roll call, please? Here.
Here. Here. Here.
Commissioner Vahey has been excused this evening. And now a motion to approve the minutes. Any changes or corrections from anybody? Nope. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
And the minutes have been approved. We already had our presentation this evening, so we're moving past that part, and we have no unfinished business, so we're moving right into new business. There is no reports this evening. But we do have our fire marshal in the back there, and a representative from the Second Alarmers as well. So, as far as new business, we have 3 agenda items. The first one, there's no action on this item. It's to, well, I'll read it out, but it's for a hearing on March 14th, and that's PS1, ordinance number 2164, amending Chapter 156, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, Traffic Regulation, Section 14, Stop Intersections, and Article 3, Parking Regulations, Sections 25, Parking Prohibited at all times, no parking between signs, no parking here to corner, to add stop intersections on Lafayette Avenue, Cherokee Avenue, Morden Road, and Keswick Avenue, add no parking here to corner on Keswick Avenue, add no parking on Brown Avenue, all as fully set forth in the ordinance. And I so move.
Second.
Are we moving and seconding if there's no action? I'm not sure what we do on that, but it is being moved forward to next Thursday's agenda.
That is correct.
Okay. So we're going to move ahead to PS2, which is a motion to promote Sergeant Sean Williams to the rank of probationary lieutenant effective April 15th, 2019, provided he successfully completes the remaining portions of the promotional process, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions from commissioners, staff, or audience? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. PS3 is a motion to appoint candidate Lauren Porter from the Certified Civil Service Eligibility List to the position of probationary police officer, provided she successfully completes the background, physical, and psychological tests and all entry requirements of the Municipal Police Officers Education and Training Commission for Act 120 training effective March 25th, 2019, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions from commissioners, staff, or audience? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And now we move to the public. Do you have a? Okay. And now we're moving to the public comment time in the public safety meeting. Are there any comments from the public? Please state your name and address. You have 3 minutes.
I'm trying to understand if we had to apparently have a presentation that started before the meeting. Okay. We had a presentation before. Was that announced that it was going to be before, that it would start at what time? What time did it start? What time did the meeting tonight start?
6:45.
6:45. Was that announced anywhere to the public?
Madam Chair, it's not a part of the formal meeting, it's just a recognition.
It's not something we vote on.
No, but it's something, it's a public happening, and you said that was the presentation for here. It's listed on the agenda. So I'm trying to understand, this is something new, and we had another presentation like this, and it was presented separately even in the video, okay? And there's just no need for this. I mean, you know, it's right here on the agenda. I don't understand why you all knew to come at 6:45, but the public didn't. So I would like to have things for the public to be understandable, and these kinds of changes are not, and I would like that to happen. So the other thing, public safety-wise, that's greatly, greatly concerning is the situation with the Brandolini property, where you had a meeting that was to determine the safety. We talked about the fact that one whole side of the project couldn't be reached properly by fire trucks, and then they also didn't have a second exit, and they were trying to get the little bridge over to the other property. And they said they were going to work on that and come back. But when they came back, there was no further explanation about how fire trucks were going to get to that other side. And the public deserves to be able to see that. There was no proper explanation. And that time, before any conditional, conditions were put on it, that's the time when the public should have been able to see what the fire company had to say and to encourage you to put this condition or that condition on it. So not only did we not have a pathway for a second exit for emergency vehicles, we also had an entire long side of a very intense project that looked like it couldn't be reached by fire vehicles. If you got some information that it could be reached, I certainly didn't get that. So did you get some other information about it being able to be reached, or was there some report from the fire marshal?
I'm not on now. This is public comment.
No, it
Thank you.
actually isn't public comment. The residents are allowed to ask questions, and the commissioners are allowed...
And your time is up
The commissioners, let me speak. The commissioners are allowed to answer the questions. You may show yourself to be a commissioner that refuses to answer questions
And
that
your
I
time is
consider
up.
pretty important.
Please finish your comments.
Please.
Well,
That I consider to
I'm
be
giving
pretty
you an
important.
extra, I've already given you an extra minute, so thank you for your comments. Your time is up. Thank you.
So I'm just hoping that the rest of the...
Are there any other comments from the public? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.
Call to order the Public Works Committee meeting for March 6, 2019. And may I have a roll call?
Commissioners Rothman,
Here.
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 Carswell. Here.
All right. Has everyone had the opportunity to take a look at the minutes from February 6, 2018? Any issues or concerns before we take a vote on that to approve? All right. I'll make a motion to approve the committee meeting minutes of February 6, 2018. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. All right. Motion passes. No presentation, no unfinished business. We are going to handle the agenda. I'll explain as we go through, but we're going to start with A, which is PW 01031419. It's to consider a motion to accept the 2018 Montgomery County Transportation Program Implementation Grant and authorize the township manager to execute the grant agreements between the County of Montgomery and Abington Township for project number TP 1801009, 2017 Green Light Go Grant, Fitzwatertown Woodland North Hills Signal Upgrade Project, as well as project number TP 1801001, 2018 Green Light Go Grant, Greenwood Avenue, Washington Lane, and Jenkintown Road, Meeting House Road Signal Upgrade Project. Rich, did you have anything on that before we talk about it as a committee?
I do not, Mr. Pontelandolfo or Mr. Barron may. Do you have anything you want to give a brief overview on, gentlemen?
These grants from Montgomery County are the match, or it's on.
Okay.
You can hear me. This is the grant from Montgomery County, which is covering the half of our match that we had to put in for these grants anyway. So this is helping the township out with half of our match, so it works out really well for these programs.
Awesome. Any comments or questions from the committee before we vote? Commissioner Bowman.
And this is going to upgrade the lights at those locations, right? Get rid of pole lights and give them more modern lights out across the intersection, correct?
That is correct.
At both locations, over by the golf course and I guess that's Jenkintown Friends School and then also up at, in Peggy's district up there at Fitzwatertown and Woodland and North Hills, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, good, yeah, thanks.
Any other questions before we, any comments from commissioners? Any from staff or the public? All right. So I move to approve that PW 01031419.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Manager Manfredi, you want to explain? We're going to do B through E all together, and the manager will explain why.
Each of items B, C, D, and E are all bid items. So Mr. Pontelandolfo will read each motion. In the case of B, there's 2 to be considered award. He's going to read each one, and I believe the chair would like to consider all in one motion as approving the bids as presented. For public comment, though, any public comment would be allowed to come on each of those, not as a bundle, if that's clear. So, Angelo, if you would, just begin with B, read it, describe it, jump to C, and then questions on all of those items.
Okay. All right, PW-020311419 is to consider a motion to award Eureka Stone Quarry Incorporated as lowest responsible bidder of Part 1 and Part 3 of super paved bid, and to authorize the township manager to execute a contract with Eureka Stone Quarry Incorporated in the amount of $1,100,850 for the purchase and delivery of super paving materials as per bid spec. And the second part of that is to consider a motion to award Glasgow Incorporated as lowest responsible bidder of Part 2 of the super paved bid, and to authorize the township manager to execute a contract with Glasgow Incorporated in an amount of $28,020 for the purchase of super paving material as per bid specs. And the reason these are broken down is Part 1 and Part 3 is delivered to the paver when we pave our roads. So Eureka got the majority of that bid. That's why it's a higher amount. The other part that Glasgow got is for us to pick up only. That's all they're supplying. So when we have to pick up a truckload of, to patch smaller jobs, that's where we go. We'll go to PW-03. You got any questions on that before I move on? Or?
You're doing a wonderful job. I appreciate you reading all this, man.
Thank you. Thank you. PW-03031419, consider a motion to award Delaware Valley Concrete Company, Inc. as lowest responsible bidder, and to authorize the township manager to execute a contract with Delaware Valley Concrete Company, Incorporated in the amount of $7,000 for the purchase and delivery of ready-mix concrete as per the bid specs.
Anything unique about this, Angelo?
What's that?
Is there anything unique about this, or is this?
No,
simply as
these are yearly standard bids, so there's nothing unique here. Most of you are aware of these type bids. This concrete is made for, routine maintenance work throughout the township. All right, I'll move on to D, PW-04-031419. Consider a motion to award Commonwealth Precast Incorporated as the lowest responsible bidder for the 2019 storm sewer inlets and manhole structures bid, and to authorize the township manager to execute a contract for $2,415 with Commonwealth Precast Incorporated. Again, this material is for the building of manholes, storm sewer inlets, and we never know how many we're going to buy as these projects go on, so that's why the bid's done like that. Any questions on that one? Let's go to E, PW-05-031419. Consider a motion to award A. Giuliani and Company Incorporated as the lowest responsible bidder for the Abington Township 2019 milling project bid, and to authorize the township manager to execute a contract with A. Giuliani and Company Incorporated in the amount of $466,741.96 for the milling of various township roads as per bid specs.
Is that that's around the standard number that we're
Yes.
going through each year on
Yeah,
this, right?
yeah.
Yep.
It didn't go up that much from last year, so it's very, very close. Any questions on that one? All right, let's go to Pete. What?
Well, actually, no.
I think we're going to stop at E because those were all bids, and then
Yeah.
F is back to a different thing.
Sorry, I got on a roll there.
It was good. I was going to switch seats with you for a minute, but I didn't want to deal with any questions being asked. Do we have any questions from any other members of the board? Questions or comments from staff and the public before we vote? All right, so I'll make a motion for the committee to approve agenda items B through E. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, so now we're back to item F. PW 06031419 is to consider a motion to approve resolution number 19012, a resolution of Abington Township, County of Montgomery, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, establishing a procedure to vacate roadways. I see we have an additional friend that wants to enlighten us. Counselor, I'll hand it over to you.
Great, thank you. The township in the last few months received a request to vacate a portion of a roadway, and there is no procedure set up in the township, so we have put together this procedure which tracks the requirements of the first-class township code and the municipality's planning code. Essentially, it requires that 51% of the adjoining property owners petition the township to try to vacate a road. So this establishes a procedure. I did discuss this with the township engineer as far as an application fee. We're recommending that the application fee be $250, along with a requirement of a $1,000 escrow deposit to cover any cost for the township. Other than that, this is fairly straightforward, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Would you be able to just give an example of why someone might make an
Sure.
application to vacate a roadway?
Sure. Typically, the request comes in if there is a paper street, which is a street that is not actually opened and paved. It is just a street that exists only on paper. And it would allow a property owner to essentially expand either their driveway or their yard into that paper street. It's usually a dead end, and it's usually a very small piece of property that the township doesn't maintain very closely anyway. That's the usual request, but.
I understand you can deal with the unusual at times. I just wanted us to understand what the general
Sure.
purpose of why we're doing this is. Any committee members have any other questions? Commissioner Bowman.
Can you say that again? What you said, the usual request is what?
So typically, it's a request to vacate what's known as a paper street. And essentially, that is a street that if the township wanted to require be opened up and paved and accessible to the public, it could. But it's a street that exists only on paper. And so the property owners will request that that street be vacated back to them. And therefore, the township would not be able to require that street to be open in the future. So it's usually just grassy area anyway that is potentially a street.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the full board? Staff? Commissioner Myers would like to ask a question.
We have vacated paper streets before, so I certainly understand that. What would be an example of vacating a street that isn't a paper street?
So there are certain circumstances, so there's two parts to this policy. One has to do with when a property owner requests it, and in my experience, that's almost always the case, is this situation I described. There's other situations where a township would be able to vacate a street if it so chose, to turn it back over to the property owners for care and maintenance in the future. So this establishes that policy. I'm not aware of Abington having done that in any recent history, but this at least establishes a policy should the township want to do that.
Would that then become a private road?
Yes.
And then, so the homeowners would be responsible for paving the road, right?
In the very unforeseeable circumstance that happened, yes.
The example that brought about this resolution, was that a paper street or a
Yes.
paved road?
The paper street.
Okay.
Yes, and you forgive me, I don't remember the specific street at this moment.
You're good. Awesome. Anybody in the audience comment on or question on this one? All right, so I'll make a motion to approve PW 06031419. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. At this point in the agenda, I'm going to toss it over to Township Manager to address some snow-related concerns the public had had.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, Public Works Committee Chair Rothman had asked many questions that his residents were asking him. So Mr. Pontelandolfo is going to address some of those common questions. But we also had Commissioner Carswell, who had questions from her constituents and residents about snow plowing. And, you know, it would be helpful if there was a video. So what we did, so that Commissioner Carswell, as all other commissioners, and we could put on the website. And as a side note, as you know, we're going to be doing a lot more video production of the things that we're doing, whether it be construction services or utility projects or other things. So this is just a snippet and a sample of how snow is plowed from this last storm. And then after, are you handling this, Kevin? After Mr. Barron runs through this very quickly, Mr. Pontelandolfo will talk a little bit about how we go about determining when roads are plowed and answer any questions that Mr. Rothman may have. Mr. Barron, if you would.
How you doing? This is Mike from Abington Municipal, and we're out here on a plowing operation tonight. Tonight we're going to see how a tandem plowing operation proceeds. Okay, here come the trucks now. It's a matter of about 6 trucks, and they're used to clear emergency routes and large roads like York Road that we're on right now by the Abington Library. So here come the trucks now. There's our lead truck all the way to the left. Snow's passed off to the next truck. Third truck passes it. All right, here come the big trucks now. They're going to work that snow all the way over to the curb here. That's what this last truck's doing. And he's going to put salt down after he passes. There's your salt. So these roads are nice and clear. Good job, guys. All right, be careful out there, everybody.
Well, he may not be John Facenda, that was Mike Titano. And again, one of the questions, and Angela will take it from here, that we get often is, why do we push it to the edge of the road? You know, a lot of people will often shovel, and then we go by with 4 or 5 trucks, depending on what it is, push it right back onto the sidewalk. So I'm going to turn it over to.
Well, if anybody up there can figure out how not to put the snow against the curb and driveway, let me know. It's impossible. You saw how clear the road gets, and when you got 6 trucks pushing across, it's a lot of snow. There's no way to avoid it. So, and the more snow you have, the more snow that falls, the more snow you're going to shovel at the end of your driveway. We don't do it on purpose. We don't do it because you made us mad. It's just one of them things of Mother Nature that we can't help. On these tandem routes, to get more serious, there's 7 tandem routes that start at once. And each one of these routes has 6, 7 trucks in each route. And each one of them routes probably has 4 major roadways. So all the streets going north, south, east, west, going through Abington get done at one time. If we don't do one, then move on to the next one. We're on each side of the town, everybody gets to the piece of the action. We want motorists to drive in Abington and drive out. We don't want no bottlenecks. We don't want that trouble. But depending on when a storm does hit, this time was good because it was all during the night. Most people were sleeping, and it goes fairly smooth, and we were able to get it cleaned up before rush hour. The problem is the storm before that, when it's done in the middle of the day, and the schools decide to close at noon, and the business let out, and other townships are having problems, so our traffic can't get through Upper Moreland can't get through Hatboro, and so forth. So you get that gridlock in every direction, and that's what happened to Storm behind before that time. We have well over 200 miles of roadway to plow, 184 miles of township road, 18 miles are state and 3 miles are county. And you all know that we get paid by the state and the county to plow their roadways. And it's better that we do it because we get there immediately. We don't have to wait for the state to respond or the county, or, you know, it just gets things moving and makes it safer for our residents. During a major plow operation, like I said, all the main roads are plowed first. Then we get into what we call secondary mains, which a lot of them run through your wards. A secondary main may be like Meeting House Road or Susquehanna, you know, up by the Pike there, them kind of roadways. Maple Avenue going through Ardsley, North Hills. These are roads that get you in and out of the neighborhoods, and that's what we try to concentrate on. I mean, it's pretty clear. We usually use about 40 to 50 pieces of equipment, depending on what's up and running, what kind of manpower we have, what kind of storm, who can't take it no more and goes crazy and goes home. But our guys are pretty good. I got to give credit this storm here to Mike Jones, which is a highway superintendent. He used to have my job. He's been running the operation. He's doing a great job. Me and Kevin been out there monitoring the roads for him, so he knows. So we call the shots on when to pull the trigger to plow. Usually we try to get it. We rely on a weather forecast. If they say the snow's going to stop at 11 at night, you know, we'll try to hit the main arteries right away so we can get everything cleaned up by morning. You know, if the snow stops at 5 in the morning or 4 a.m., and we just start plowing, people wake up and say, like, what did you do all night? It's not snowing. Well, you know, it takes 10, 12 hours sometimes to clear the township, depending on the volume of snow. We get questions, you know, you got more snow on my side of the street than the other guy's side of the street. We don't do it that way. We go down the middle, clear the center, up and back, and it gets evenly. Corners sometimes can be a little problematic depending on where we got to stack it on the corner. We try to do evenly, all 4 corners. Sometimes you can't do that. So depends on the intersection. I don't know. Have any questions or concerns that you are getting?
Yeah, so let me start. First of all, I appreciate you and the manager working to get this part of tonight's agenda together. It's a series of questions comes every year. You've been great at answering my questions over time. I was curious about corners because I live on a corner. I was curious about having shoveled and being pushed back in by the snow because that happened to me. I can attest to the fact that since you made me aware of these things, I've watched them in action and see that our staff is aware of concerns that residents have that live on a corner and of trying to avoid pushing people back in. And the past few storms, I was actually out there shoveling when people came by, and at least over in my area, I saw people working wonderfully at trying not to push people back into the snow, back into where they had already dug out. So I appreciate that, and having this video, which we'll be able to clip and share when people ask us these questions in the future, is great. So thank you on that. I don't have any additional questions personally because I already had communicated with you and the manager to get these on your radar. But I'm sure there may be some other questions from commissioners. It looks like you want to add something first. So
I want to add something.
Since it's your show,
because
you go
just
first.
reminded me of something. On every storm, we always talk to all the employees and men before we start. Been doing this for many years, and I tell them, the less phone calls I get, the less grief you get. So we tell them, try not to block driveways, try not to make a mess, avoid whatever problems. And our guys are pretty conscientious. I got to give them credit. They do pay attention. Some things can't be avoided, and you know, some people don't understand that. They're thinking we can clear every driveway. Well, the snow would be melted if we did that by the time we get to all the driveways. So.
Yeah, and I do encourage members of the public that have questions to reach out to their commissioners when this type of thing happens, because I know that it wasn't this storm, but it was last year where there was one particular resident that had an issue, and I think you actually sent someone out there. Now, I'm not saying that that's something we should make a part of it, but it was in an area where there was a school bus and all that stuff. So from my experience, Public Works has been wonderful, and I appreciate what you've done, and I know it's not easy. Commissioner Gillespie has a question.
I have a question, and first I want to compliment you. I think they do a fantastic job. I think people kind of expect you to be doing some of their own work. If we have problems at the end of our driveway, I've certainly had to shovel mine out for so many years. And I think it would help a lot, and I do put this out in my newsletter. Please share your driveway. It makes it so much easier for these guys trying to plow. Some of these streets are narrow, and if they would share their driveway with somebody that doesn't have one, it helps them because they don't have to clear off as much in their driveway, and gets the cars off the street, and the guys can go down the street quickly.
And it
So
makes a
thank
better
you. I think
job.
You do, it sure does, and you do an excellent job. Thanks to all the guys.
And I want to elaborate on that. When you have these cold temperatures like we're having this week, after you move your car, if it don't melt, it's going to stay there till it gets warm again. And you'll notice that now driving around, people have cleaned off their cars. They throw the snow back in the street, and then you got them frozen bumps, which, you know, just be better if you put it in a driveway, let us do the plowing, then put it back out in the street.
I mean, look, there's certainly a community aspect to it that, you know, try to help your neighbors, but I do understand personally when there are residents that have a complaint. A lot of the complaints come from people who have a bad back and they can't shovel, or a resident that, you know, is elderly. So, you know, when we can share information and help people, that kind of comment, like the suggestion by Commissioner Gillespie, does help all of us and help you do your job. So I encourage us all to share that kind of thing. My friend Commissioner Spiegel, we haven't heard from you yet tonight. This is
I've been
good news and
I've
bad.
been saving it all up. Thank you, my friend, Chairman Commissioner Rothman. Angelo, I also want to echo everybody's compliment. I mean, things have been great. I mean, for years, Abington has been known to the point where they actually say this on some of the traffic reports you hear on like KYW and such, that like, you know you're in Abington because all of a sudden the streets get a lot better, and then you leave Abington and the streets aren't so well plowed anymore, and that is absolutely still the case. I wanted to share something we talked about the other day, just because I've had, it came up, a couple people asked on Facebook. Years ago, 5 years ago, in the aftermath of the ice storm, your predecessor, the legendary Ed Michelow, was presenting about kind of the winter wrap up, and he addressed a question that had come up about brining. How come Abington doesn't brine? Wasn't by the brine? Why doesn't Abington buy the brine trucks? And Ed said, he looked into it. He talked to public works managers in other townships and looked into the different prices and everything. And what he determined was that brining, like investing in a brine truck and brining ahead of time, is a good trick to buy yourself time if your public works crews aren't able to hit the roads quickly. But as was the case then, and as you confirm was the case now, your crews, you said the other day, some of your crews are there before you are. They're waiting to be called because they know it's going to happen. A huge majority of them, I think, live in the township or very, very near. So for folks watching at home, That's the, if you've seen that question come up on Facebook or wherever, that's the reason for, that we don't brine. It's not because nobody thought of it or nobody wants to invest in the trucks. It's with, real strategy or forethought. So anyway, and I just want to say thanks again, Angelo, for everything.
Any other comments from commissioners? Staff and/or the public? Please, when you come into the microphone, please provide your name and address for the record.
Good evening. I'm Tanya Granger. I currently reside at the house where I grew up on 1574 Lindbergh Avenue in Roslyn. That is a corner property. It's on the corner of Lindbergh and Miriam. I want to thank Commissioner Rothman for communicating with me this week as I asked him some questions about clearing the snow on the corner properties. The streets are gorgeous. The larger streets, the smaller tertiary roads in the neighborhoods is my concern. My concern is the handicap ramps on the corner. When we have a snowstorm, we always get an email, or at least I do, saying how you need to clear your snow within the 24 hours after the snow stops. And if you live on a corner property, please make sure that your corners are clear. So I'm assuming that means you need to make sure that the handicap ramps are accessible. Unfortunately, because of how the plowing is done, the handicap ramps are blocked by the snow. So that's just my concern. I understand about the driveways. Yes, they're going to be plowed back in, and you deal with that. But the handicap ramps were put there not for snow. They were put there for access. So that's my concern. I hope that would be something you discuss. Thank you.
Thank you. Angela, do you want to respond to that? Or, I think we sort of covered it, but it's my understanding that in that type of scenario, what the homeowner's responsibility is to provide a path for people to ingress and egress from.
That's
from
correct. The
homeowner.
homeowner is considered part of the sidewalk area, so they do have to clear it. I will take a look at this 1574 Lindbergh, make sure that it's normal plowing and it's not excessive on her corner and so forth. I will take a look at that, okay?
Thank you for doing that.
For everyone who has corner properties,
Yeah.
for everyone who has to clear those handicap ramps, all of us as a township, those of us who are doing the shoveling, we clear the
Sure.
ramps as we are told we must do, and then they're closed.
Thank you, Angelo, and thank you for those comments. We had another individual. Please, again, name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Joanne Tressler, and I live at 616 Roslyn Avenue in Glenside. I'm here to speak about a problem that has been going on for many years with no resolution. My block of Roslyn Avenue has no curbs, no sidewalks, no drainage. From 700 up is all done. Now we're doing Tyson Avenue and Edge Hill Road, but the 600 block of Roslyn Avenue is still not being considered. I went to the meeting that was held at the VFW a few weeks back and brought this up there. I said, we're going to be the only block, and it's going to take our property values down. If I was coming into the area to buy a house, I'd go, well, they've got sidewalks and curbs, they've got it, why would I pay this woman for her property? And I know you're not going to lower the taxes, so my thing is that we need to have something done on that block. Now, the former engineer blew me off for years and just he'd come out and he'd look and he'd go like this, and that was it. So I tried calling again. They sent Tim Clark out. Tim said there's nothing that can be done. After the meeting, I spoke to the township manager. He said, you want to go back to the engineer and get them to come out. So I called, I got Tim Clark on the phone once again, who said, Joanne, we've talked about this. I said, we have, ad nauseum. I would like to speak to your boss. She never called back. So I called back to the township manager and told him I did what you told me to do. I got nothing. Then they told me to contact Mr. Zappone, which I did. He has contacted the township manager, and still we have no resolution. Amy Montgomery came out with Tim Clark and said, you're right, something has to be done on this block. She can see where the water just cuts through my yard. I'm on my second shed that's been destroyed. There's nothing we can do. The water just pours down that block. And she said, you're right, something has to be done. We need to get a water study, blah, blah, blah. Didn't hear from her, so I called her back. She said, oh, you've got to talk to the township manager. So we're back to just playing volleyball. They keep saying, everybody says it's somebody else's problem. But I live on the block. It's my problem. And I need to know who in the township is going to come out and do these water studies and see that the 600 block of Roslyn Avenue gets treated like everything else around it.
I think that the people, or most of the people that you mentioned while you're speaking, are in the room. So what I would recommend is maybe Commissioner Zappone, if you continue conversation with the resident and the manager and see what, if anything can be done. I mean, I'm not going to be able to go back in history and understand exactly what's going on, and I haven't been out there and all that, but hopefully we could try to work with you to resolve that.
I've been there since 1977.
Okay, well, I mean, it would be my hope that we can hear you out and see if we could get something done for you. I don't know exactly what the situation is or if we can resolve it, but it doesn't seem like there's something that we can do much about it at the moment right here, and I don't want to be blowing you off. I just want you to take it offline so maybe we could try to get something to help you.
That would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Any other, we're still working with comments relating to the snow right now. If anybody has comments that are general public work comments, I mean, I think we could pretty much go right into that unless anyone objects so that we can move on with the agenda and go home before the next snowstorm. I was just kind of joking, because isn't there supposed to be one in the next day or two again? Or, okay.
Never joke about snowstorms.
I wasn't suggesting we're going to be here for a year.
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. And I also would like to thank Angelo. I think, he does do a wonderful job, and there are, I know, a lot of things that need to be done. The one thing I would like to say is where you said, well, maybe somebody shouldn't always come out. I think somebody should always come out whenever there's a problem that can't be resolved on the phone. I think somebody should come out.
My comment was simply that we can't just have Public Works coming out to every single person's house in the whole township.
Well, you can't have maybe a highly trained worker, skilled worker, but you can get a public relations person to go out, look at the situation, and report back what it is at a reduced rate that makes the township run. If the township is not solving the problems of the citizens, then something's missing. And we had, for instance, flooding problems like is being mentioned here, where you watch people get bounced around from one to the other to the other. And she came to you, and you bounced her back to two people that she had already been to. That kind of thing is what we're trying to stop. And so, I would like to see you be part of that group, that you facilitate that group. You're the head of Public Works, and that's a Public Works problem.
I believe I just facilitated that, but let's keep going. You have
Well,
other comments?
facilitating it isn't pumping them back to the other people. That's.
I think that's
Well, see, there's the misperception, I think. If you think you told them to go back to two people that they've been to already and start all over again.
I didn't say that.
And you consider that facilitating it, then
I didn't say that.
what it sounded like where I was sitting.
All right, cool. Do you have other comments that we can?
Well, yeah, and so on that miscommunication, so communication is everything. It's absolutely everything. And so, we had, and I will say, earlier I mentioned about the public safety issue, and every single person on this board sat quiet while one commissioner decided not to answer that question. Not one other commissioner asked for an answer to that question. So 15 commissioners, actually, if you're all here, maybe somebody's missing, there's a chair there, but 15 commissioners decided that the resident didn't need an answer to that question or any resolution to a building that is about to be built.
I don't believe that's accurate, but also I anticipate you're going to tell me that we cut your time. So if you could speak about Public
Okay.
Works, that's what I have some control over.
Okay, so my main public works issue is, do you have, and you have some control over that, so when they hire somebody, are you made aware of it, of the hiring? Or is that done strictly by the personnel and the leaders in the department?
If an employee is hired within the
In
Public
Public
Works
Works, for
Department,
Public
do they
Works.
tell me?
Position, yeah, are you part of the oversight process? Do you know who they are? Do we look into the records of the people or anything like that?
The staff is
Answer is no.
hired to go through that process.
So would that be the manager and I'm trying to, is that the manager and the Public Works Director? Is that who is in charge of hiring?
I believe that's the case.
Okay. So if you had somebody who applied for a job and had been let go from their previous position for reasons of some improprieties, and that were known, would that be something that should be told to the Director of Public Works as well as the manager, if the manager didn't know that?
I was just going to say that.
I was just gonna say that as
Mr.
well.
Chairman.
Well, that was actually
Any
a
personnel
general
matters are
question.
not discussed in public, period.
Well, not about particular people, they're not.
I can-
Personnel policies are set by the wishes of the residents in this township who are represented by the 15 people in front of me, okay? And so you should be actually setting your policies according to what the residents that you represent would like you to do. And
I'm not going to comment on personnel matters. I think we have some solid policies for that kind of thing, and trust that they're quite efficient as well.
Well, when you don't comment on personnel matters, it's not about setting policy, it's about particular personnel, particular persons, and their private information is the reason you don't comment. But we've seen that stuff twisted regularly in this township.
All right.
And
I think we're getting. a
we're
little-
done. I'm done. We did recently have a conversation where you said you really didn't know about any conflicts of interest, and everybody here was upstanding, and if they had any, they would come forth. I hope you've
Yeah, that's exactly what I said.
And you
I
still,
said that
you
no one
haven't
here
rethought
has
that.
a conflict of interest because I know what's going on with everybody and every single thing.
I have a list
I
started
highly
for
doubt
you
that's
at
what I
home.
said.
I'll share it with you soon, okay? Thanks.
For the record, I'm pretty confident that I did not say what you just said I said. So, any other comments from the public relating to Public Works? Any other comments from the board, or are we ready to, I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Get stepping.
With the call to order the March 6, 2019 committee meeting with respect to the Administrative Code and Land Committee, and may I have a roll call, please? Present.
Here.
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 Present.
Okay, having the roll call, I'd like a motion to consider approval of the minutes and a motion to approve the committee meeting minutes of February 6, 2019.
So moved.
Everybody okay with it?
Yep.
Okay, so that passes. We're good to go with that. There is no presentations for this committee today. There's no unfinished business for today. And what we do have is new business in agenda item ACL 01 04, 03 14 19. Consider a motion to approve the subdivision application for a two-lot residential subdivision for property located at 629 Roslyn Avenue in Gledside, Pennsylvania. I believe the applicant is here. Somebody here for the, okay. So let's open that up for a quick discussion. Do you have anything that you want to add to this? Do you want to say anything you want to say about this?
My name is Chad Brensinger. I'm the applicant's engineer. I can quick go through the project if you guys would like.
Please do.
We have a two-lot subdivision at 629 Roslyn Avenue. Was just discussed about 5 minutes ago with snow removal and public improvements issues, but we're right across the street, just about. So that's a neighborhood that we're talking about here. We went before the zoning hearing board in last April for reduction of lot width and building setbacks. And we were granted approval on that on April 17th. We came back and submitted subdivision plans to the township engineer, and this was the plan that we submitted for zoning. You can see the 27 by 80 box set off the road. And then here we have the plan that I submitted to the township engineer for review for the subdivision itself, based on the zoning relief. The review letter was fairly simple, basic comments. One of the comments, however, from the county, I believe, was why we're set back so far from the road. The answer to that was we were proposing a 27-foot wide house with a 27-foot wide house to honor the building setbacks and the yard requirements set forth by the zoning relief. It pushes that house back. So we're looking at some options. She's working with a builder, and we're looking at house size options, and we're still working on it. But we will comply with any review comments set forth by Amy and her staff based on the house footprint that we end up with, depending on where we end up.
So that means this plan will...
You're not ready to go?
Was that?
You're not really ready to go?
Well, we're ready for submission. We're ready for subdivision.
They're getting
But I don't have a house. We don't have a house picked yet. We have to go through the building permit process after we go through the subdivision. So, we're still working on the footprint.
I do have questions.
Okay, questions? Well, sure, Carol.
It is my ward. It's interesting.
Commissioner
That's
Gillespie.
the other side, other side of the street. My questions, when I was there, we met, a little bit ago, and at that point, it was going to be a manufactured home. Is that still the plan?
No, actually, a modular builder finally came out.
Approach the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
I'm Leslie Roop. I'm at 629 Roslyn Avenue. So finally a modular builder came out and looked at the property. So the whole year I thought I was going to do a modular, and he said he hates to refuse my business, but he can't get a house up onto the street with the power lines where they are and the narrowness of it. So I'm now looking at a
Stick-built home?
Yes.
I was fine with that because I could actually order you one of them. I worked for a couple of builders that did that.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you can't get it up there, that doesn't help.
Yes.
And I'm looking at this soil erosion control. Now, we're just talking about across the street who has the water situation. So, I'm trying to figure out, you're asking for a waiver here with the soil erosion control. Following waivers have been requested. Soil erosion control.
What was the specific waiver? Well, let me see.
Township Planning Commission recommendation, January 22nd, 2019. 1, 2, 3, third one down.
Section 146.
I'm not sure what the specific section was and what we asked for relief on, but all the erosion control on site is going to be compliant with DEP standards per the Pennsylvania BMP manual.
Was this waiver for construction, ENS controls during construction?
This would be a waiver
Yes,
to the
right.
ENS plan with the subdivision plan,
Well-
but they would be required to do an ENS plan with their building permit.
Right, so when they actually build a house, they'll be required to do the ENS for the temporary, but for the purposes of this hearing, we're not considering ENS controls?
Correct, because they do need to come in for a building permit.
Excuse me, okay. Okay.
Further?
Yes. I had the architectural plan, but now that I see you do need an architectural plan, because we had talked about the manufactured home, and the waiver with the curbing, gutters, sidewalks.
Let's open it up for quick discussion.
Yeah,
Any
we have
comments?
discussion there because
Any discussion, any comments from?
I'm hoping
it's tough because I understand that that's just this lot here, and then yet they do need, I understand the other question, because it's both our wards, I know what it's like up there. You need sidewalks there and down Ardsley Avenue, that's for sure. So
Why is
what do
this-
we do here? We have a new construction.
Why are we asking for this waiver, for the sidewalk and curbing waiver?
Because there aren't any.
There's no sidewalk in the neighborhood, there's no local stormwater to tie into. When you install curbs, you typically need to install storm sewer too, and if you have nowhere to connect it to, it's kind of hard to grade, end it on both sides of the property. If you can't grade on either side of the property, you basically have sidewalk and curbs nowhere on either end.
But we have
Sidewalks less than 200 feet away.
right, the next block up, there's sidewalks and curbs.
But not in this block. There's nothing in between. Both Edgecombe and Ardsley Avenue are extremely high hills, at least as bad as what they felt Bradfield was. And they don't have sidewalks. And there's no sidewalks in this particular section of, so I understand you're asking for a waiver because you're the only property that would have them. But then we need them up there, so I just don't know what to do.
Good. Commissioner Klein.
So we should all understand, and I think we all do understand, that this is a requirement of the subdivision and land development ordinance. We're not asking for anything over and above anything else. This is a requirement in our regulations, is to put sidewalks and curbing in. Us granting a waiver is giving the applicant something that is not necessarily being afforded them in the subdivision and land development ordinance. And I know for myself in the last year have gotten 3 requests to have sidewalks put in certain areas. And my area has very few sidewalks. And we need to stop giving waivers when sidewalks are even remotely in the close proximity, because in order to make a walkable community, you need to start with every subdivision and every land development application. And we shouldn't be granting them. There's sidewalks less than 200 feet away on the corner and less than 300 feet away on their side of the street. And
There's no sidewalks
Is
over
the-
there. On
What's
either
that?
side. There's no sidewalks on Edgecombe or.
there's sidewalks on both sides of the street as you go to the next block.
My ward.
What's that?
On Edgecombe, there are no sidewalks. You're looking at Roslyn Avenue. And
I
that's
am
the-
looking at Roslyn.
Well, that's on the other side of Edgecombe. And
I know
there's
it
no
is.
sidewalks.
I know. It's
Yeah.
on the other
Well,
side
that
of the
was
street,
built-
corner.
Never mind.
But still,
And I understand what you're saying.
and
I
there's
just said that.
there's sidewalks on all those new houses that are.
I'm not arguing with you.
No, I know you're not.
I understand what you're saying. I'm asking about that waiver. That's what I'm saying. I know that we're asking for them. And I'm just letting them know that basically,
Yeah, I
not
don't
doing
think we
those
should be giving
waivers
them out,
anymore.
and that's my personal opinion.
So I think Commissioner Bowman, your comments, and then we'll go to Commissioner Friedland.
Yeah, I think it is interesting, and both points are well taken. And since we're not, in all likelihood, to kind of go back to your issue, ma'am, we're not going to be instituting any kind of program to put sidewalks in the entire neighborhood, because that's just not going to happen, and the cost of that would be borne by the homeowner, not by Abington. For, say, a whole neighborhood, because I have a neighborhood in Roslyn that doesn't have them, and we all have certain spots that don't have them. But Commissioner Klein's right, that the only way we're going to get them is they might come in piecemeal, and maybe by some point, when we're close to an existing stretch of sidewalk, maybe we'll get involved. But this is probably the way to start the process, and I agree with Commissioner Klein that if it's part of building, we're going to have some spots where there's going to be a piece of sidewalk unconnected until further notice.
Thank you, Chairman Brodsky. I definitely understand and respect Commissioner Gillespie's articulation of both sides of the situation, but I can think of, and I've brought these up before, 2 very practical examples of what Commissioner Klein is talking about in my own time as commissioner. Several years ago in Ward 10, in advance of, after a horrific accident that involved a child pedestrian fatality, and in advance of the Edge Hill Road Bridge closing, we were able to get sidewalks all the way down an important section of Rockwell Road, because there were so many sidewalks to nowhere, we could basically just zip them up. If those sidewalks hadn't been there, it would have been far, far more complicated and more expensive to get that connected sidewalk. Along the same lines, part of the reason that when a HUD grant came along to get the sidewalks along the 1,000, the water tower side of the 1,000 block of Edge Hill, the reason that that project was a lot easier because there were a couple of sidewalks to nowhere. So sidewalks to nowhere, eventually, let's say a grant comes along, let's say circumstances change. I mean, they can be a deal maker. So that's just my experience.
Just one thing, if you don't mind. No, I wasn't saying, I'm just was talking about they asked
Oh,
for
no,
that
no, I was
waiver,
saying you
and
totally
at least
articulated
we
that,
got
yeah.
into the discussion, and I wanted you to know why that waiver might not be able to be done, okay? I just know that now when there's new construction going on, they're asking for sidewalks and curbing.
So let me simplify this. First of all, are there any other comments from any of the commissioners that want to weigh in? Commissioner Thompson?
Is the applicant willing to put in the sidewalks and the curbing?
I truly didn't know anything about it. I mean, I have to do what I have to do. Yes, I'm sorry. I'll comply with anything that has to be done. My issue is, obviously budget and, trying to stay in the neighborhood, which I did discuss. I don't know if some of you were here when I first came for the application. I guess what I want to say is I understand your points clearly, but there's no other open space on my street, so I would be the only sidewalk to nowhere. There's no place else that anybody would be adding any more in. But again, I want to build a house. I want to stay in my block. So of course, I'll do whatever I need to that comes through.
So if the motion were amended to include no waiver of the sidewalks and the gutters and the curbing, are you okay with that?
I might not be thrilled, but like I said, I want to stay. And it's, I've been working on this for almost 2 years. I'm invested.
Any other comments, questions from commissioners? Commissioner Gillespie?
Sorry. So, well, maybe I need Amy for this or somebody. Architectural plan, they're asking for a waiver. I don't know. I mean, I've worked for builders, but I don't know about this, I'll tell you right now.
It would be funny to ask you to state your name.
Yeah, they don't make me state my name, fortunately. The waiver for the architectural plan, as you'd heard from the applicant, they don't have a building yet. There is the infill requirements that they will have to meet, though.
Okay.
So once that plan does come in for a building permit, it will be reviewed in accordance with the zoning ordinance.
So everything, that's okay then?
It'll all be reviewed
Okay,
at that time, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, anything further? So I think what I want to do is amend the motion at this point, unless anybody has any, well, let's amend the motion. Solicitor, what do you say in terms of no waivers with respect to the sidewalks and the curbing?
The motion would be to pass this on next week for approval, granting
recommend-
all of the waivers except for the waiver for section 146.27 curb gutters and sidewalks.
Was it 146.27?
Yes.
Okay. So I will make a motion to amend the current motion to include all waivers as requested and the motion is presented with the exception of 146.27, and there's no waiver of the requirement under 146.27. Is that agreeable?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Okay, thank you. Okay.
I'm sorry. We have one procedural issue. Do we have to take public comment?
Well, yeah, I'm about to do that.
Oh, okay.
I'm about, yeah, so
All
going
right.
to do that. Any public comment with respect to the motion that was just passed, or any public comment with respect, well, we'll get to one at a time. Public comment on the motion just passed. And if we need to renew the motion to do it, we'll do that. So any public comment? State your name and address for the record, please.
I'm sorry.
Joanne Tressler, 616 Roslyn Avenue. The gentleman over here said that this property would be the only one with a sidewalk, but that's not the case. The house to the right of me, 2 doors down, has a sidewalk. I assume someone at some point put it in themselves. So there are approximately 10 houses on this block. We're not talking a neighborhood, like you said. And there are a couple little pieces of sidewalk. My biggest problem, I don't have a problem with her putting a house in, But if this property, the house is going to sit at the back of the property, that means a longer, a paved area, a driveway from the house to the street. Well, we all know what happens on the paved area. The water runs down the paved area. That house is on the high side of the street. I'm on the low side, and it's coming on over. It's more water problem. And until the township can at least put in curbs and sewer up there, any more concrete or paved surface, it's just more water runoff.
Thank you for your comments.
I'm sorry?
Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your
welcome.
observation. So, Commissioner Klein.
Yeah, just one comment. As the engineer Montgomery talked about, the builder would have to meet the requirements of the infill ordinance, and that does dictate how the frontage of the house is in relationship to the houses to either side. So it won't be that far off based on the infill requirements. It'll be close to the way the other houses are on the street.
And don't they have to put some kind of detention basin in or something?
Yeah, stormwater management.
Don't you have to put a detention basin?
I would need to jump
Is that
in
what
on
that
that.
Sure.
So the applicant went to the zoning hearing board and correct me if I misspeak, Chad, because it was before I was here, November of 2017, and they had the house further up front, and they requested side yard setback variances, and the zoning hearing board denied the application and suggested that they move the house back. So the applicant went back in April to maintain the separation distance between the new house and the existing house, and that was the plan that was approved by zoning hearing board. So that's the one that you see in
So
front
the
of you.
zoning hearing board overrode the ordinance?
The zoning hearing board actually suggested.
Another great move by the zoning hearing board.
So I just wanted to correct.
Excuse me, before you step back, Ava,
Sorry, Carl.
don't they have to do some kind of detention basin or something
They'll
when they're
have to
building?
do stormwater
Yes, and
management,
that actually
yes.
is actually better than what's there now, which is just.
Correct, there's no stormwater
Yeah,
management.
there's nothing
now.
up there, yeah, so that's good. Okay, thank you.
So, okay, if there's no further questions or comments, I just want to ask the solicitor real quick. Do you need me to procedurally, let's get this proper and let's get this accurate. Do you need me to reintroduce the motion and take another vote on that, or?
Would any of the board members' motion vote be different based on the public comment that was made?
Any of the board members, committee members, anybody from the board? Okay.
And I don't think, and I apologize, I should have caught that we didn't ask for public comment.
That's fine. But as long as it's procedurally accurate,
You're
if you want, I
fine.
can recall.
You're fine. No,
Okay,
no.
fair enough. Okay, so that actually passes with the no waivers. And with having said that, yeah, no sidewalks. I mean, you have to put the sidewalks in, so we understand that. You're clear. The sidewalks will go in. Any public comment on agenda items? Let's call for that. Anybody from staff, committee, public comment? Kindly identify yourself for the record, state your name and address. Please be mindful of our speaking limitations.
I don't need them outlined again. Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. So we just had the debacle that was the BET process that was loaded, filled with absolute.
Is this directed towards an agenda item for this evening?
This is
This is
general.
public comment at the end of.
I understand that.
At the end of code enforcement.
I understand that. Keep going.
This is a code issue.
Keep going.
Okay, so the problems that we had were numerous. And if the code director, being yourself, sir, is not interested in having this process changed, then processes to come will be equally corrupt. So I do want to just enumerate some of the problems that this particular issue had, and it would take me all night to enumerate all of them. But we actually had a code department employee who knew that some of the information going into the record was false and said nothing. We had, I believe, a solicitor who put false information into the record, I believe knowingly. If not, he certainly had a chance to amend that and has not done so. We had a commissioner who stayed and voted on that particular item.
Ma'am, I want to
who-
caution you that you're treading slippery slope here.
We had a
Continue.
commissioner who stayed and voted on the BET project, who, by all appearances, should be adhering to his constitutional obligations, which appear not to allow him to hold a state rep office and also hold a commissioner office at the same time. We
Ma'am, I'll give you a
have,
second caution. You're going on a very slippery slope.
by telling the facts as I see them, with good reason to understand these facts. So we had, I believe, also false impressions given, and this is an opinion of mine based on my having surveyed hundreds, perhaps thousands in this case, of residents, that I believe false information was given on the representation of what the residents' positions were as well. It was also followed up by documents that were withheld from multiple people before the meetings. In one case, documents were given right before the meeting, but they were completely incomplete. And those other documents had already been sought, so there was no reason for them to be incomplete. And the documents that were afforded me remain incomplete to this day, and it was November 15th that I first requested them. So the problem is that if we have a commissioner who's looking away as you are and warning the resident not to speak, rather than providing a place and a way to address these concerns, then we are going to have more of them. And this is not what anybody in their township deserves, because we deserve an honest process where the law is upheld and where the decisions that are made are based on law. I want also to mention that we have in our vacant property
So,
committee.
ma'am, I've allowed you an additional minute of speaking time, and you are beyond the speaking rules, so thank you for your comments. Your time is expired.
Thank you for not being interested in the other things that are of concern.
Okay. Having said that, any further committee business? And if not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Here we go. We're adjourned. Thank you.
It is my pleasure to call to order the Township of Abington Public Affairs Committee meeting for March 6th, 2019, and let us start with a roll call.
Commissioner Spiegelman.
Here.
Bowman.
Here.
Schreiber. Mosqueda.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Commissioner Schreiber is excused tonight. Let us start with the approval of the minutes. This is a motion to approve the Public Affairs Committee meeting minutes of February 6, 2019, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any corrections from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The minutes are approved. We have no presentations tonight unless there are surprise presentations I don't know about. We have no unfinished business. Let's get right into the new business, starting with item PA 01-031419. This is a motion to award the planning and community development consulting services to Urban Design Ventures LLC for a 3-year period. The consultant will aid and assist the township with the design, planning, and implementation of the township's community development block grant and home investment partnership programs, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Director Strother, any notes, information on this for us?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners.
Good evening.
Abington Township is an entitlement community under the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the CDBG program, Community Development Block Grant. Operating that program as an entitlement community, there is obligations, annual obligations to submit various reports and documents to the federal government. The Township of Abington, for the past 10 years, has had the aid of a consultant to put these reports together. And this is just to renew the contract by public advertising, soliciting bids from firms, and there was one that responded, and we have received it and have submitted for your consideration.
And they've had this contract before?
Yes,
And do you feel that they have fulfilled it satisfactorily?
absolutely.
Excellent. All right, then, I'm going to open things up to questions from members of the committee. Questions from commissioners in general. Commissioner Thompson and then Commissioner Klein.
So we bid this out, but we only got one bidder. Any contemplation of rebidding?
We'll probably end up with the same results.
Is it because we're not advertising, or why are we only getting one bidder?
It is a complex, it's a complex venture of putting together an application response to an RFP, because it really depends on having knowledge of a particular region that you're operating in. The other 8 proposals that we received came from companies that were out of state, and we advertised in the paper, I guess got picked up in the electronic news. Those that are local firms, which is only a handful, this is an industry that it's not common having consultant. It takes a lot of expertise and knowledge. So to be a new consultant and to bring yourself up to speed with the.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Thank you.
I didn't notice that, sorry.
There's a learning curve for a new firm to come in a very specialized area, so I would guess that they just kind of weigh their options and see whether or not it's worth investing a learning curve to bring them up to speed with the burden of properly responding to the demands of the annual reports to the federal government.
So you said did we get 8?
8.
Proposals, or 8 responses to an RFQ?
Inquiries. We receive a total of 9 responses to receive the RFP electronically. I mailed out 9 the RFP packages, and only 1 came back.
Okay. And how long is the term on this?
3 years.
3 years. Okay.
And Director Strother, just to make sure we're all on the same page, we advertised according to the legal requirements?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Klein.
Have we found out why the other 8 did not respond? Have we ever gone back to find out why they didn't respond?
No, I didn't reach out to them.
Yeah, I would request that we reject the bids and find out why the bidders didn't come back. If we sent out 9 responses and only got 1, if we sent out 9 RF packets and we only got 1 response, I'd like to know why we didn't get other responses. But I think it's, we're putting the money out, we're going through the process, we should have more opportunity here. So, especially if you got 9. If you told me there were 2 people that asked for packets and we only got 1 bid, then I'd understand it. But talking about 9, so there must be something that was either a negative to somebody responding or the way the package was put out. I don't know what the reason is, but there's something there.
I certainly appreciate your curiosity. Director Strother, in past years, or in past cycles, so 3 years ago, 6 years ago, when, wait, who is this again? This is, okay, so UDV. When they won the bid, how many, was there ever any competition? I mean, did anyone else ever submit an RFP?
Yes, that's an excellent question. 3 years ago when we put it out, there were 4 requests for proposal and only 2 were submitted. One being Urban Design Venture, and the other one was Triad, which is a local regional consulting firm.
And so obviously UDV got the contract. So was Triad? Oh, you said Triad was local. You said the 8 that never replied once you sent the RFP packet, they were all out of state.
Yes.
And in the cycle before that, so 6 years ago, did UDV get the contract then as well?
Yes, but I wasn't here.
Oh, okay,
But I did
so-
look at the package briefly several years ago.
And at that time, was it a similar situation? Did Triad or any other firms actually submit an RFP at the time?
There were more than two. If I recall, I think there might have been four.
All right, Commissioner Bowman.
This is us implementing federal money, correct?
Yes,
This is not Abington Township money.
yes,
And you're going to hire a consultant to assist you in the planning and implementation of this federal program, correct?
yes.
I mean, we put the proposals out, one person responded. This isn't our money. I mean, I don't think we should put it back out. I think you comply with the rules and we should pass it.
Well, it is our money. It's our allocation from HUD. And we have a plan to use the money in a certain way, and part of that allocation is to hire a consultant to administer the HUD money. Is that correct? Or is it-
Yes.
So.
And that was
the
done in
more
the
money, the more money that we're using for a consultant to administer the program is less money we can put out to the actual program that the HUD money was meant for.
But we complied. It was put out, people requested the proposals. They didn't put their bid in for the obvious reason. One person did, that's the bidding process.
Well, that's the problem. We don't know what the obvious reasons are.
Yeah, I'm a little, I mean, obviously.
Well,
I
I'll just
thought Director
one
Strother
commissioner at a
stated-
time, please.
I thought Director Strother stated the situation fairly succinct.
Commissioner Thompson?
Well, I'm not sure that I really understand the initial response. We're talking about federal money, so I'm not really sure why we need a knowledge of local regulations. This is federal money that is being administrated, correct?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
This contract is for the administration of federal funds, so why are we asking the consultant to have a detailed local knowledge on this? And why, if we really need a consultant with a detailed local knowledge, why are we sending the RFP out to other states?
No, other consultants have picked it up other consultants out of state have picked it up electronically and have responded to it. We didn't send it out
Okay.
out of state. Only thing we did is published it in the local newspaper. But I would have to say, you really have to hear me when I say that rebidding it, you're going to probably end up with the same results, because the local knowledge is, there's a tremendous amount of information that the federal government asks from at the county level. There's a lot of demographic information. There is a learning curve. So experienced consultants look at that and really weigh the options. Are they willing to learn to invest the time internally just to understand a particular fabric of a community and also the demands? And I would not recommend, because it's an ongoing process. We're in the middle of several contracts, and there's the reports that are due that is waiting. So that will put an additional burden on a township and exposure, pausing while we continue, if we rebid, and you'll end up with the same results.
Commissioner Strother, just to be sure everybody understands, those 8 out-of-state firms that initially responded and to whom you sent RFP packets, they would not have been precluded in any way from submitting an RFP, or they wouldn't have automatically been excluded because they were out of state. Is that correct?
No.
They had every chance to submit an RFP, just like UDV did, just like Triad did 3 years ago.
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Myers.
Thank you. Mr. Strother, was this bid that came in that you're favoring, was this within your budget?
Yes.
And it sounds like you've had some experience with this company. I'm not sure, or you know that it was used before your time. I didn't hear correctly.
Yes, they were working with us for the past 3 years, or even longer than that. Their 3-year contract has expired, and we're now looking to rebid for a new consultant.
And you have every confidence in them?
Absolutely, without hesitation.
So you're really recommending to this board that we go ahead with this bid from this company?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Because there's a much bigger obligation, and that is to, in a timely manner, respond to HUD. The issue shouldn't be focusing on the consultant. As long as the consultant is doing the work, you shouldn't get hung up on, as long as you follow the procurement process and publicly advertise, your biggest target, your biggest burden is making sure that those reports are submitted to HUD on time, properly, and accurately. That's the true burden.
Do you feel that were we to reject, well, all bids, reject the sole bid and repeat the process again, do you think that that would compromise the timely submission of those reports? I mean,
yes.
Okay.
Mr. Spiegelman?
Commissioner Klein.
I mean, with all due respect, the reasons why it was claimed that there were not other bidders is all conjecture. We don't know why there weren't any other bidders. And that, to me, is the problem here, is that we've had 9 packets go out, we got 1 bid. Why did the other 8 refuse to put in a proposal? What's the reasoning for that? So if the board is inclined to go along with this because of the time frame, we should at least have the oversight enough to go out and find out why we're not getting other bids. And is there something with the packet being sent out? Is there not an interest because this outfit has got it for the last 6 years? I mean, what's the reasoning why we're not getting it? I mean, just because it's federal money we're still stewards of the federal money. And I know the question was asked about it being in budget. Well, but if we have other bids and we can bring it in lower than budget, then that's more money that goes into the homeowners that need the HUD money for programs that are listed within the action plan. So, it's all fine and good, but we still don't have an answer as to why we didn't get any other bids, especially when 9 packets go out. It seems a little irregular to me.
Commissioner Bowman, and then I'll comment on that.
I don't believe that we have an obligation to inquire of the other bidders why they didn't submit a proposal. It's not, I thought that the explanation, again, that was offered was adequate. It's a highly detailed, localized situation. Many of these companies were not local companies and don't have a grip on maybe the demographics of our neighborhood or the neighborhood that's getting these CDBG. And I would pass it.
Personally, I'll say I don't think there's, I think we're creating an unnecessary potential problem by starting this whole process again. But I also don't think that there's any reason not to do a follow-up inquiry. It just seems like due diligence. If there are no more comments, Commissioner Vahey.
Mr. Struther, the first quarter of this fiscal year is actually the fourth quarter of last year, correct? Based on the chart you've included with the agenda? Is that right? It looks like the first quarter of this fiscal year, for which we're still seeking a consultant, has passed. We're in the second quarter?
Yes.
That is correct. And there was supposed to be a caper filed at the end of last year, so before December 31st, 2018?
Yes, that was submitted.
Who performed that work?
Urban Design Ventures.
Was that under the prior contract or the one that's not been approved?
Prior contract.
Okay. You list in this, and I just assume you create this chart, you list several work products here that I don't think I've seen before, which I'd like to see. So if someone can provide me, and maybe the entire board, with the annual action plan, the CAPER, and the 5-year consolidated plan, I'd really like to see those.
Absolutely.
Oh, and also the
environmental review record.
Yeah, but the impediments, I definitely want to see the impediments.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Manager?
And just to follow up, some of those are on the website. These documents, not all of them, but they're on the township's website.
We'll pull them down for you.
Can you please spoon feed it for me?
Yes.
So it shall be. So it shall be. Mr. Manager.
The item on the agenda this evening, you could certainly move it forward to the 14th, to the regular business meeting. And in the meantime, Mr. Struther can certainly make inquiries if the committee would so like him to do so. Again, just a few points. Because there's federal money, it does cross state lines. Therefore, it may just be as simple as, because it crosses state lines, they get it, they get the bid specs, they look at it, and they think it may not be worth it. But if confirmation to maybe that's what happened, we have days that Mr. Strother can reach out to a sampling, if not all, if that's the committee's desire. And I do believe, Van, was it still under contract, or did the contract expire when they did the caper?
It had expired.
Correct. I just wanted, because that's, the question you asked, the answer you was given was different than the facts, so.
So someone performed the work without a contract?
Urban, the contract had expired.
Right.
Urban was the contractor. The contract had expired, and Mr. Strother engaged them to continue to work to get it done to meet the deadline.
How were they paid?
Outside of the contract.
Okay. Out of HUD funds?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So the contract we're talking about now would not cover the work performed in the first quarter of this fiscal year?
That's correct.
So it's $6,000 less than what we've been talking about?
Well, I think the total money's already, the $6,000 was already paid out, Van, if I'm not mistaken.
No, we have not paid them for the caper.
So we will pay them the caper if we award them the contract? That's
Or we have to
currently-
pay them for the caper no matter what, because it was outside of the, right, okay. We're
This goes back to the issue that you had discussed months ago.
yeah.
Okay, thanks.
The point I was trying to make, though, is if there are questions that clarification is needed, there is time in between now and the 14th. And you can move it forward without a recommendation, or you can move it forward with a recommendation.
I think that's entirely reasonable. Mr. Strother, you'll get us some, you'll do some research in the next week and get us some answers on this?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. We do need to take public comment before I make a motion. I plan on making a motion to move forward with that recommendation. But we do need to take public comment.
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. So I didn't scroll down on this item. What was the amount for all 4 quarters? What was the amount?
I actually don't have it in front of me, but if
Of
somebody,
this-
Mr. Manager, do you want to?
3-year total, $74,000.
74,000 for 3 years. So, and was this company or the other company, the one that had something to do with, did they design in any way the Crestmont Clubhouse?
No, has nothing to do with that.
No.
This is
Okay.
about filling out federal forms.
About the federal, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I assume federal monies were in on that one, too.
No, but this is
as well as-
the purpose of this contract is basically filling out reports
Right,
to HUD. That's the
right.
entirety of the contract.
Okay, and, well, I guess the way it was written, it sounded like there was also some design and aiding and assisting with the design, planning, and implementation. Doesn't sound like just filling out reports. So if you were aiding the design, planning, and implementation of the Crestmont Clubhouse, that would concern me.
Mr. Strother, if you have if you
Just
want
a
to
point of
answer now,
clarification, it's not designed as far as dealing with the physical structure. It's taking some of the demographic, when you go through your process and you get demographic information, needs assessment, you kind of start crafting a program to respond to the public needs.
Okay.
That's what.
that kind of design, okay, I understand.
That kind of design, all right, understood. And so then the other question that I had was just that, obviously, we have a bazillion other communities all within arm's reach. What are they doing, and who are their consultants helping them fill out? And did the RFP go out to those consultants who must know the local area and the local landscape pretty well? So maybe we could get an answer on whether any of those were among them. If they were all out of state, I assume, we must have some communities that are doing local. And also, how much are they bidding out?
Thank you for your comments. With that, if there are no more questions or comments, from the audience, I am going to make a motion that we move this forward without recommendation for next week, and then the full board will consider, and then we can move it all, presumably move it all forward. Motion to move forward without recommendation.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
All right. And that's 2-2.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Bowman.
With respect to my fellow commissioners, what portion of the CDB budget money goes towards this planning and design person?
The administration budget. The administration budget.
And what portion of the money is that, roughly? 5, 10%, 20%?
Yeah, 5 to 10%. It varies, but when we do our 5-year consolidated plan, that's $37,000, which is much lower. Every 5 years, you have to do a consolidated plan. But on an annual basis, it's about 5 to 10%.
So each company, is that capped by the program capped the administration amount?
Yes.
It's capped at what, 10%?
20% of your annual allocation.
It can't go any higher than that, correct?
Yes.
And how about, how much have they taken in ours the last few years? What percentage of our budget have they used? You say 10% roughly?
Roughly 10%.
So I'd make a motion to just advance it with positivity to the committee, to the full board next week. To advance it with approval from this committee. Yes.
All right, well, that's been moved in second. I mean, look, at this point, we're spinning our wheels. No matter what, you're gonna be getting us those answers in the next week. No matter what, the full board needs to consider it. So I'm fine with a revote. Otherwise, I mean, we're staying here till 10 o'clock for
Well,
really
keep
no
in mind,
reason.
with 2-2, it didn't pass.
Right.
So,
Right.
so if.
So you have
So we can't-
So if
you
you
have
vote,
another motion
you have another
and
motion,
a
you
second,
vote that, and
you
it will
should
go
call
forward.
that vote.
All right, that's exactly what I was gonna do. All right, so then, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
All right, so now 3-1. And we'll take this up next week. All right, then. Moving right along to PA 02-031419. Consider a motion to request approval to submit a park rehabilitation and development grant application to the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources that is due on April 10th, 2019, and I so move.
Second?
All right, it's been moved and seconded.
Greta.
I was just about to call on Directors Brunschweiler and Oles. Oh, I know how to pronounce your name.
Many of you actually were here when we did the master site planning, and that was from a grant that DCNR awarded to us a couple years ago. And I believe Commissioner Spiegelman and Commissioner Schreiber came to our public comment, or public meetings. We had 75 people at each meeting and a lot of public comment. And the public wants Briarbush to be good, or better. So this is the implementation piece for that. So.
Sounds good. All right, I'm going to just go right ahead and open up to questions of members of the committee, commissioners in general, the audience.
Could you just explain more about what they're doing with the plan?
If there's any additional information you can briefly give, I will indulge that.
Sure. So actually, this project was, was on the township and Briarbush's website for public consumption, if you will, and all the public was invited to come to many meetings. So this is improving the site for safety and for accessibility and the enjoyment of the community.
Thank you kindly. All right. I think let's go again. There's a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much, directors. Our final agenda item is PA-03-031419. This is a motion to ratify Keystone Communities, KC program for the Abington Township Veterans War Memorial Island application in the amount of $17,000, and I so move. Second. It's been moved and second. I think we're all familiar. We had an excellent presentation from Mr. Michelow about the plan for the Veterans War Memorial Island. Commissioner DiPlacido, before I turn over to Director Oles, do you have a question?
No, I just wanted to mention that I did speak with Mr. Michelot this evening about the project, and he said he did acquire a Jeep, an actual Jeep from World War II.
He got the Jeep?
Yes, he did.
Oh, that's a huge acquisition. That's going to be pretty cool. Director Olds, do you want? It's hard to follow the Jeep, but do you want to try to follow the Jeep?
That's right. Just real quick, and you guys, this has been presented to the board prior. The only reason we brought it back up as a Keystone Communities is because we're going through a different program. It's the exact same submission we had before, but they required a new resolution stating that it's Keystone Communities as opposed to Greenway Trails and Recreation Grant. So it's still through DCED. It's just a different program on their side, which required a new resolution. So we wanted to bring it to you for the new resolution number for the thing. On a side note, too, there is a meeting for the committee tomorrow night at the Roslyn Boys and Girls Club. So anyone who is interested in hearing more about where we are going and now with the Jeep, please attend. It's 6:30 at the Roslyn Boys and Girls Club. And again, you get a whole lot more information on where we are, and things are moving. So it's going very well.
Thank you very much, Director Olds. Any questions from any commissioners? Commissioner Fahey.
Director Olds, $17,000 doesn't seem like all that much to me. Why aren't we applying for more money?
We're applying for, that is all we need at this time for our match.
Okay.
So that's just all what we had to commit to. But we should be able to just take care of that all through fundraising. But we had to commit to that. Everything else for the grant is about $90,000.
Are we applying for a grant to make a match for another grant, or are you asking us for $17,000 to match this grant? I'm
The
confused.
$17,000 is just for this grant. So we just have to commit that we would have that available, and we will.
And then, so how much is the grant we're applying for?
$90,000.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Commissioner Fahey. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Audience? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. PA3 passes. That concludes our formal agenda. We'll now open up the floor to public comment, anything in the purview of public affairs.
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. So you may know, Mr. Chairman, that a lot of people in the township got some information that they actually have no zoning rights, that the zoning rights are intended to be malleable and movable and changeable, and that right is given to the commissioners to do as they please, pretty much. And that was a message that was sent to a great number of people in this township, and I believe it to be inherently false. And I'll explain why.
I disagree with your statement, but go ahead and explain if you want to.
Okay, but that wouldn't be a good thing for a chair to do, okay? Chairs are not supposed to
do what I need to do at my
disagree with the
discretion.
people
Go ahead.
that are
Go ahead.
speaking. Yeah, I know, you take that
Continue.
discretion too, the same as the zoning rights. So here's the problem with that, okay? Zoning rights and all other things that happen in our townships are supposed to happen at the will of the people and the representatives that represent them. So if you had some sense that everybody in Abington Township would like you, and I speak to you as a group, to be the ones who totally are in control of what goes on the property next to my house, I can tell you that I personally do not want to give you total control. I want to have some say in a long, considered process where I have more input than we had and more knowledge about the process going on than we had over this last one. But at the very least, once a process was put in, I would want that process enforced and considered properly. And that, of course, was not what happened recently at the YMCA property. And that's why residents all over this township were upset, because developers are beginning to writing their own stuff and asking 15 people, which 8 of them would like to pass that. And virtually everybody that you represent would not want you to do that. So for you to say that people have, or whoever learned that people have no zoning rights and that those rights are intended to be malleable, that's not the case. Those rights are intended to be what the people in this township who elected you to serve them would like you to put into place as policy and law. And that's what I would like all of you to understand, is that I think all of you know that your residents did not want that kind of a policy where the next developer is going to come in and do the same thing. At High Top, they tried to do it. At Wawa, they did it. And this is becoming, not just in this township, but all over the way of the world. And it is not right, and it ignores the fact that the representatives are supposed to be making policy that represents the people who are their constituents. So I would like to get that corrected first. The second thing I'd like to do,
Just so you know, you have one minute remaining.
Okay, so some of these are important things. So here's a not so important one. We actually just paid somebody to take information off the channel, okay? There were meetings running, and they ran for 2 weeks, and we actually had somebody take the energy to remove them and put on the scrolling in their place. I would like to see that never happen again. We had so many meetings, Metaplex, Baderwood, Brandolini, but the whole 9 yards. BET, 2 hearings for both of them, you know, and all of those meetings could have been playing again during that time. We also have the county meetings on and no placard, and we worked like crazy to get the wild music off, which happens again to be on again and louder than it was before. And so we're going backwards and paying people to do that.
Your time is up. Please wrap up in 30 seconds.
All right, in 30 seconds, I didn't get a chance to write this to you beforehand, but the vacant property is considering looking at people who are delinquent. I would like to say publicly, that's not a good idea. People who are delinquent have a long process before that becomes public information so that they can have more opportunity to keep their properties. If vacant property starts using the means that they have to learn who's delinquent first, it will be an invasion of that process. So thank you.
Well, thank you. That's actually not an accurate characterization at all. We can discuss this further, but not on camera.
If you gave me enough time, I would be able to
well, it's not
explain
going
it,
to.
but
It's
you're
not
not
going to be here
do
because
that.
our meeting
Yeah,
is now
you're not going to
concluded,
do
and
that.
I am going to entertain
In 2 seconds,
from
I
anyone
dare
on the
anybody.
committee a motion to adjourn, and we're adjourned.